UFOs are real, burgeoning, and not going away. I am your intrepid host, L.A. Marzulli. Welcome to yet another UFO update. It's not going away. It's in the news constantly. And Karin Wilkinson joins me, the author of Stolen Seed, Evil Harvest. If you have not got a copy, go to our store, lamarzulli.com. You need to read this book. It's also, Karin is a centerpiece in our 10-part DVD series, Gil Zimmerman and I. It's number 4 on abductions. And it is a riveting interview with 2 men and 2 women, all who have been taken. Folks, you know, this is the coming great deception. I say it over and over again, but we'll get into that. But first, a word from our trusted sponsor. Folks, this is the Noble Gold Investments Market Update. Gold is up 46% in a year, doubling NASDAQ and S&P 500 gains. But this isn't just another rally. Global reserves are shifting as investors rush to secure physical gold, creating a massive supply gap. Gold is vanishing from the market, but you still have a chance. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com today and turn their panic into profit. Make a qualified investment, and Noble Gold will add a free 1/10 of an ounce gold coin to your order. Folks, Peggy and I did this 2 years ago. Best thing we ever did. I predict it's going to go way over 3,000. That's conjecture on my part. There's always a risk with any type of transaction like this, but I'm glad we did it, and I have a lot of confidence in Noble Gold. Once again, noblegoldinvestments.com, noblegoldinvestments.com. Okay, folks, Karin joins us. I just want to thank Mr. Peters for sending me this incredible coin here, and let me hold it up. There's the box.
Oh, cool.
And he couldn't resist, and this is what the coin looks like. And you can see the alien and the UFOs and the whole deal. And it's a solid gold coin. So I'm going out for dinner, just joking.
I'll go with you.
There you go. But I just want to thank him for sending it. It's just
That's nice.
it's sitting on my desk here. So Karin, there's a new film coming out, and that's what we're going to be talking about, The Age of Disclosure. And, you know, what's amazing about this is the filmmaker, Dan Farah, obviously he's being bankrolled by somebody, and he's got access to all the bigwigs. I mean, I've been trying to get Lou Elizondo on the show for months. And so I read his book. You read his book. It's a great book. And, you know, Lou actually answered an email, and we were supposed to set something up to February. Didn't happen. So my bad. I'll email him again, but he said he would do it. But the bottom line, Mr. Farah has, you know, all the top dogs at his beck and call. And he's talking about disclosure. Before I turn you loose here, because, you know, you and I are on the same page with all this stuff. And this is why we watch it. This is why you're on the show. What makes The Age of Disclosure stand out among the thousands of previous UFO film and TV documentary efforts over the past several decades is that Farah only included on-record interviews with current and former senior members of the U.S. government, military, and intelligence community with direct knowledge of unidentified anomalous phenomena, or UAPs. God forbid we should call them UFOs, right? The result is a riveting look at a subject that's being taken far more seriously in recent years as high-level officials make statements, release videos, hold hearings, and take legislative action. Okay, I get that. Bully for you. I would have done the same thing, but I have no access, and I don't have the bankroll that this guy has. But we did 10 films. Let me hold it up here. I'm proud of them. My business partner, Gil Zimmerman, and I, 10 films. You know, this is it. We're the only Christian ministry on the planet that's looked at this phenomena from a biblical perspective. What are you waiting for, folks? You know, you can download these for like $5 a pop. You know, streaming.lamarzulli.net, streaming.lamarzulli.net. That's all I'm going to say about that. Karin, what are your thoughts when you read that opening statement?
You know, I agree with you. I think he's clearly bankrolled. He's got connections, and
people have been told to talk to him, because you and I know in this industry, it's impossible to get anyone to speak with you. There's a huge stigma, and anyone who is interested in stigma, pick up the pp&s report this month. It's a great deal. It doesn't cost you even as much as a cup of coffee per month. And I wrote an article this month about stigma. It's going to surprise a lot of you what's behind stigma and the different kinds of stigma. But because of that, people won't speak. They won't speak about it. They won't speak to you. And I appreciate the fact that he's got this long laundry list of direct government officials with direct knowledge. But your movies actually have people who've had direct experience.
Exactly. Like yourself, like Al Matthews.
Yes, like Andy, like him.
Yeah.
And countless others that we have spoken with over these years that we've been doing this. There are so many people with direct knowledge of these programs because they've experienced them. It's one thing for someone to say, I saw a memo, or I was part of a group that talked about it. It's another thing for someone to say, I was in that. I experienced that. This is real. I saw government officials walking around with non-human alien entities. And that's a very different thing. And I think the reason why, for example, this documentary got 18 plus million views of the trailer, it has not been picked up by anyone for general release yet. So I don't know when or where it's supposed to be released mid-March, but I don't know if it's going to happen. But your trailers haven't got those views. Why? Because people are not comfortable with this level of truth. And the level of truth that your documentaries have is groundbreaking beyond what this supposedly groundbreaking documentary is. So I'm not putting this documentary down, but what I'm saying is it's missing a vital piece of information. It's missing the firsthand experiencers' accounts of this that would go hand in hand with these officials saying this happened. If you put those two things together, that would really blow some people's minds and blow wide open their preconceived notions of what's happening in this world. It would change some people's perceptions greatly.
You know, the Lord has redirected our steps. I've been talking about this. We are bowing out of many conferences. I've actually canceled 5 conferences this year, and we're focusing right here on our YouTube channel. We're bringing many, many guests. It's just not me speaking all the time. We bring a lot of guests like Karin and other people on the show, and we're really putting a focus on our YouTube channel because we get, on an average, 10,000 views, and that average is climbing up. It's going up, which is incredible. But in the film, on the 8th of disclosure, that something is boldly defined at the start of the film, that non-human intelligent life exists. I want to talk about that. Non-human intelligent life exists, that they've been visiting our planet for a long time. So what is this non-human intelligent life that exists, and why should we not trust it?
In my opinion, and I know you shared this opinion with me, we know about this, those of us who have a Bible that we can put in our hands and open up and read. From Genesis to Revelation, it's going to talk to you about this non-human intelligent life, because we weren't the first ones that God created. There is a created order of beings that we generally call angels that were created to serve him, to worship him before us. And the ones that fell away from him, the ones that disobeyed him, those are the ones that deceive us, that people call devils or demons or what have you. And those are the ones that are visiting us as in the guise of our ancestral seeders or benevolent space brothers, which they clearly are not. Not, kidnapping, raping, stealing, maiming, killing. Those are not benevolent actions. So, and I could go on and on about that, but that's not our topic today. But yeah, so there's that non-human intelligence exists, and we know it exists. It's been around since before the time that we existed as humankind. And if you don't know your Bible, listen, if 18 plus million people viewed this trailer, chances are your friends and neighbors could be one of them. And if you don't know the truth in your Bible, how are you going to share with them the truth about who and what these things really are so they're not deceived by it? Do you want to see them be deceived by something that's just so evil and so terrible, and they might think that it's wonderful and just walk blindly into the snake pit? It's so important. I just can't stress that enough.
And I hear the passion and the urgency in your voice. Farah says, I had multiple senators tell me that they thought my documentary would be one of the most effective tools for helping make the public aware of the truth in a way that could get the rest of the government to take this topic more seriously. 18 million viewers, the trailer, 18 million. It's just unbelievable. And, we're lucky if we get, 30 or 40,000 hits. And yet we keep, there's millions of Christians in the United States. We have 10 films from a biblical perspective viewpoint, and we can't get to first base. Now, maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. But, 18 million viewers. I mean, folks, and it's not about money. We're not talking about money here. We're not talking about filling the coffers so I can go buy a new Porsche. I don't want a new Porsche. You understand that? That's not why we're doing this. We're trying to warn the body of Christ what's coming. This is the coming great deception. I will be talking about that at Prophecy Watch.
Can I speak to what you just said a second ago? Yeah, please do. Because they said they want the government to take it seriously. The government is taking it seriously, and they're seriously hiding it. It's not that the government needs to take it seriously. It's that no one wants to share the truth in the government agencies. And based on what we've seen so far in the new administration, I don't see that changing because we didn't get anything truthful about the drill-ins over New Jersey. Representative Mike Sherrill from New Jersey, he quoted in Escapol that, we were told one thing and then he said another. It's clearly we're not going to get any good information here. And I tend to agree with them. So taking it seriously, I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue is who do we have to convince to share the information, to share the truth? Will it ever happen? I think it's going to be up to God, and I think it's going to be up to the fallen ones how much they just expose themselves at some point.
Were any of your sources threatened for their participation? He writes, yes, some of them were told very clearly there will be consequences for them, that they would be in danger if they participated in not only my documentary, but any documentary. But while my interview subjects want to see the truth be brought to the public, they also 100% agreed that there are a lot of elements on this topic that should remain classified. So what I love about, our films, the 10 films, we talk about close encounters of the first, second, third, and fourth kind. We talk about the abduction phenomena, cattle mutilations, crop circles, the 2 films on Roswell. And just so you know, folks, this is a piece of metal right here in the bottom of that little glass jar from the Roswell crash site. There it is. And we will be going into a laboratory, Gil Zimmerman and I. This will be on film. I will be presenting the results of this at the Prophecy Watchers Conference. If it's just part of a beer can, I'll let you know. But if it's got elements and ratios not found on this planet, then we're off to the races. We've got 10 films, Gil Zimmerman and I, 10 films on this from a biblical perspective viewpoint. We sit down in 9 and 10 with people on both sides of the aisle. And we know that people have been threatened. I mean, there's no doubt about this. Things seem to be changing, but we've got the answers. I mean, they're still talking about, all this from 30,000 feet. We're like in your face. We're talking to 4 people who have been abducted. We've taken the time and gone to Rancher Miller and spoke with him about the cattle mutilations. We're there at the Crop Circle Museum in the UK. We went to the Roswell debris field. I mean, it's boots on the ground. And look, it's not about the money, folks. And I've released the first 2 films of that series for free. And we still had, I think we had 250,000 views for free. So, look, it is what it is. I'll stop complaining here. What are your thoughts about this push and pull with the whole disclosure thing where, well, if you say something, we're going to kill you. And, and yet the person says something anyway, and it's in this film. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of old guard still making threats that don't necessarily have the teeth behind them to come to fruition. So this is the way it was always done. You say something, we're going to kick you out. But today, I think that there is a different angle on that. I think that they actually want some of us to be talking because the threats have pulled back. That kind of thing seems to have just really lessened quite a bit in the last couple of years because we're actually working towards helping disclosure come out a little more organically so the government does not look as culpable in some of the terrible things that have happened, because we know there is a very specific physicality to this and that it is hurting people. Lou Elizondo said in his one of his interviews, specifically one with People magazine, I mean, and you look at this is no longer the stuff of backroom conversations. It's on national news, it's on local news, it's in articles in magazines like People magazine. Okay, it's mainstream. So if they wanted to stop it, we're so far beyond that. But in People magazine, he said, and I quote, "There were actually medical doctors in the U.S. government payroll that were looking at military personnel and intelligence officials who had close encounters, who got too close and suffered medical consequences, both externally and internally. These have been documented. There are a lot of these patients, and these people have sustained injuries that were consistent with some sort of directed energy, like what might happen if you get too close to a microwave oven." Now, I can say, as a former abductee myself, I have medical issues that defy some doctors' understanding or explanation, as if I have been exposed to some form of possible radiation. Where does this come from? And what do I say? Well, I was taken my whole life, and they look at you like you're crazy. Again, we're back to stigma. But my thoughts are, it is such a push and pull because it's coming out. It's even in mainstream magazines, yet we still can't talk about it to our friends, our neighbors, our doctors without looking like we're crazy. So it is still a very difficult double-edged sword when it comes to this topic.
What drives me nuts about it, it's in the biblical prophetic narrative. Jesus warns us that even the elect would be deceived if that were possible. Men faint for fear from what is coming upon the earth. Jesus warns us, don't be deceived, don't be deceived, don't be deceived. Matthew 24, Luke 21, Mark 13. I mean, it's like all there. It's screaming at us. What would make men and women fear, from what is coming upon the earth? Why would someone fear this? Is it a mile-wide asteroid? Yeah, it could be. But, you get mile-wide motherships over the cities of the world, plural, and that's the game changer. I'll be talking about the Prophecy Watchers. I'm going to skip over here a little bit. I'll be at Prophecy Watchers in Orlando, and I will be talking about how do you form a one-world religious system and a one-world government when everything is so, broken apart at this time, where it's so disjunct. You've got Buddhists and Hindus and Christians and Muslims and Jews, all these different people. How are you going to amalgamate them all into a one-world religious system? I heard this years ago, and Raël, I'm not sure, do you know who the Raëlians are? Do you know who they are? They're a group of people who believe that Claude Vorlehorn, who is now called Raël, had an experience. He was taken aboard, and they're building an embassy in Jerusalem. Whether they've done it or not, I don't know. But they've been bagging on this one particular scenario for decades, talking about when the craft comes down, Jesus, Muhammad, Krishna, Buddha, Moses, all these avatars will come walking out waving to the crowd. Now that's, can you imagine if something like that happened? I mean, that's a way. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but isn't it interesting that Raël has been promulgating that for decades? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I agree that would be an incredible way to bring the world together as a one world religion. And they have so much capability at their disposal, the non-human entities, to do that. I mean, even if you were at a crosswalk and someone got hit by a car and a being of light showed up and healed that person who was sick and said, "I'm your ancestral seer. God sent me. Now we're going to create a new religion." Everyone there witnessing that would most likely, anyone without discernment and who was not a praying, spirit-filled person, would probably follow that entity because they would see it as a benevolent, loving being, not realizing that just because something like that happens does not mean that that's something sent by God or that it's something loving. You have to test the spirits. You have to pray about it. You have to be spirit-filled. Just because something's beautiful does not mean that it's good. And that's where my fear comes in, because they can make anything look beautiful, but it doesn't mean that it's good, holy, or just.
Exactly. Chris Bledsoe talks about this, and I have his book in my library, UFO of God. And he had this encounter. Well, his son is terrified. And I've invited Chris on the show with his producer. So far, it's been a no-show. And I would love to talk to him, mano a mano, cross swords, but in a nice way, very respectful. The same thing with Jake Barber, who's a helicopter pilot, stand-up guy. I get that. But he had an entity which is now inside of him. And Jake, if you're watching this, or if you've got a friend that's watching this, you need to call me, because it's not what you think it is. Trust me, it's not. And you need to get this thing out. You have to want it to leave, or if you give it permission, it will stay there. You have to want it to leave. These are not, and the fact that it's it's classic possession. It's classic, and this is what's alarming, because this thing is ramping up. It's not going away. It's ramping up towards some sort of a climax. And when we look at, people go, oh, there's peace now in the Middle East. Nonsense. Don't believe it for a minute. I just watched a clip that I won't even talk about it here. What's happening in Syria right now is genocide. That's what's happening. I'll leave it at that. And that's documented. It's not fake news. It's not conspiracy theory. It is genocide. 1,200 people have been slaughtered already, and they're just getting going. But, it talks about the idea of leaching this out to the American people. And what bothers me in some ways, here you've got, excuse me, let me get a sip here. We know that the phenomenon is real. The first rung on the ladder of disclosure, Commander David Fravor on Tucker Carlson's show, basically stating on the record that, whatever this thing was not from this earth. So there you go. So what do you do with that? What do we do? What does the Christian community do when David Grush is in Congress? And Karin, and I talked about this, and looks right up at Representative Nancy Mace and states on the record, we have non-human biologics in our possession. Non-human biologics. And yet the church won't, for the most part, I'm painting with a broad brush, but for the most part, won't even address it. How do we bridge that gap, Karin? I mean, this is, and I hear your heart. You're as earnest as I am to try to get the word out. And we've done everything we know how to do. These guys get 18 million views. It's just like, it's just unbelievable. Your thoughts?
Well,
If we were playing the game, if we were selling out, if we were telling the lies that we've been asked to tell instead of the truth that we know in our hearts, we would also get 18 million views. So I am okay if I get 8 views. If I can get to 8 people instead of 18 million, then that's 8 people I can get to.
Bingo.
Because I'm not doing this for money. You don't come forward with and share your experiences like this because it's easy, because it's not. And it's not something that earns you money, and it's not something that gives you fame and fortune. It's something that's hard and scary, and you get a lot of criticism, trust me. But I will tell you what, anyone who is out there saying these are benevolent space brothers and that they have had a great experience, I would love to sit down and talk with you here on LA Show as well, and just share why our stories are different, and help try to figure out and bridge that gap between those types of stories too. Because, you may look at it as benevolent, but then look at what happens to you. You were injured. You were terrified. There were things done against your will, and when you're trained to look at something one way instead of actually looking at what happened, it's very easy to be deceived into thinking it's something else other than what it is. And evil is evil, period. It is black and white. There is no shades of gray here, pardon the pun because of the grays, but there really isn't. And I think we need to be very careful, very, very careful about who and what we listen to, because the more of this that comes out and the more movies like this that come out, the more opportunity for deception is going to be out there. And we have to warn our friends and neighbors. We've got to know our Bible. We've got to know the truth. And we've got to be willing and ready to share that truth at a moment's notice. Your neighbor says, oh my gosh, I saw the trailer for this awesome There's awesome show, this awesome documentary. Say, hey, I've got one from Elliot Marzulli. I'll let you watch for free. I've got it right here. Or here, follow this link. You can stream it for $4.99 or what have you. Share that information. Share that truth. Help your friends and family and neighbors and loved ones see the truth. It's all right here at Ellie's website. So much truth, so much available, and just readily, easily available.
We're gonna end on this one. This is the question: are there any common elements of UFO lore, like abductions, ancient aliens, Area 51, Skinwalker Ranch, etc., that some UFO believers have long believed, but that your research has suggested are not true? Is there anything the UFO crowd is wrong about? He writes, this is Farah answering the question, nothing really stands out to me, but I would go the other way with it, which is a very senior former official in the film goes on record to confirm there has been ongoing UAP activity over some of our most sensitive military sites, especially in the western United States. He specifically notes that this includes Area 51. That's an important moment for me because Area 51 is a talking point that I think your average person thinks is all conspiracy, that nothing real happens regarding UAP in that area. The person makes it very clear that this is not the case. So, it's, once again, it'll be a film unlike ours. He's sitting down with a lot of military people. We haven't seen it yet, so we can't weigh in on it. We will both look at it and then do an update to give you, the viewers, an idea of what they're promulgating. But, his statement, abductions, Skinwalker Ranch. I mean, I know that, again, Stephen Greer, you're welcome to come on the show, cross swords anytime you want. We'll treat you with the utmost respect, sir. I disagree with your platform, and I know you disagree with mine, but that's okay. We can talk about it. Dr. Greer believes that the abductions are all U.S. military. Weigh in on that, Karin, and we'll kind of, look, folks, we've given you a lot to chew on here, but Karin, weigh in on that and let us know your thoughts.
Yeah. I don't deny that there could be some U.S. military abductions going on. They're called MILABs, military abductions. However, what I had experienced and what others I have spoken with and the other experiencers in the fourth movie in your UFO series have experienced were clearly not of a military abduction, because the capabilities of these entities are far beyond anything that our military had then or has now, even beyond things that maybe haven't been released that are still secretive, because their abilities go into into other realms, into things that are so spiritual in nature, that are multidimensional in nature. That is not government. Whether our government is involved with it, that's another thing. So they can work hand in hand, yes. But were they military abductions? Absolutely not. I can say 100% for me, these were not military abductions. Case closed for me and for the others I've spoken with.
And I know Alan Matthews echoes that. Emil Jurek echoes that. Angela echoes that. It's in our fourth film, folks, on abductions. It's very intense stuff. And this is the thing. I mean, it's one thing to sit down with government officials, which is great. I'm glad they made the movie. It's another thing to have experiencers like yourself, like Alan Matthews, Angela Beckman, and of course, Emil Jurek. And, folks, we took the implant out of Emil. We're not making this stuff up. It's all in the films. Karin, thanks so much for joining us today, folks. UFOs are real, burgeoning, not going away. This is the coming great deception. But, and here's thank God it's there. When we go up, they come down. When we go up, they show up. Thanks so much for watching. Hit the subscribe button, lamarzulli.com. Rungs of disclosure. We are up to the 20th rung on the disclosure ladder, and with no end in sight. Thank you for watching. God bless you all, and we'll see you again real soon.